Good morning. Welcome to ClayChat. Today we speak to Melissa Barker, ceramicist, archaeologist, chef, mother, teacher, everything else that she's going to tell us about. So yeah, Melissa, without further ado, it's over to you.
Hi everybody. My name is Melissa Barker. A quick just little introduction. I was born in Klerksdorp, and I grew up in Orkney. Went to high school there, and that is from Orkney. I left to go to study to be a chef. So if I had to sort of start with my life story, it would be that I went to hotel school in 1996. It is a French Swiss hotel school, and it was in Mabatu. In those days, it was called Mabatu. And I studied to become, I did hotel management there, and then I moved to Johannesburg. After I got my diploma, I moved to Johannesburg, and I was a restaurant manager for many years at a restaurant called Soy Restaurant. It used to be in Melville. And then from then, my husband Greg got a job offer to go to Austria. And that's when we left the country to go to Austria. And that is where my career as such in hotel management, chefing, all of this ended then, because as I moved to Austria, I wasn't allowed to get a work permit because they just gave one work permit. So I thought, okay, now what am I going to do? I can't just sit and do nothing. And I started studying at UNISA sure, that was such a long time ago, 2007. Are we talking about now? 2007. And that's how my archaeology, my interest in archaeology started. So we can go to the second slide, or the next one. So here you see Chatzor, the site that I've been always working at in Israel. It's a heritage site talked about in the Bible. I think the Chatzor was burnt down by King Herodes. I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly who burnt it down, but actually it was burnt down, which was actually quite interesting. So if I had to say where my path started in ceramics, it would be when I started excavating at Chatzor. We excavated so many different types of pottery from different eras, different places. And it was just wonderful to work with it. And this is also in Chatzor where I met Sharon Zuckerman. She was one of the directors at Chatzor in 2013. And it was Sharon that said to me, that told me for the first time about the Yale Babylonian cooking tablets because of my chef's background, my hotel management background. And she's asked me, like, do you know about these recipes? And I said to her, no, I've never heard about it. I mean, there's not a lot of people that's heard about this. And this is also why I keep on doing this work of mine, is to make everybody aware of these amazing tablets, Babylonian Akkadian tablets that's housed at the Yale University, which contain these recipes. But as the story went, I said to Sharon, no, I mean, I'm not a chef anymore. I don't want to do this. This is archaeology, because I wanted to do ritual. I was very, very interested. I'm still also very, very much interested in ritual. And then Sharon said to me, like, but there's a lot of ritual in food as well. And after all of these years of study, she was perfectly right. There's so much ritual. It's just, ancient cooking is just really, really beautiful. So, I mean, if we can go to the next slide. So that was just the background into, because once I read about this Yale Babylonian tablets, I actually changed my view completely, and I just couldn't not do it. It was originally translated by Professor Jean Potero, and the way, when I saw it from a chef's perspective, I actually just, I couldn't really agree with a lot of things that of the way that he translated it or interpreted, because he was looking at it from a very linguistic, like academic point of view, and not from a chef's perspective. And this is what Sharon said to me when we were talking. We had lots of many conversations during the 2013, during my excavations when I was there. She unfortunately passed away in 2014 of breast cancer. And so I only actually have those conversations because between the two of us during that year. But she really changed my life. So yeah, she just put it in this direction where I'm now, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So I hear in this, where I'm standing here now, eventually when I returned to Khatsor many years, and I started, because of my interest in ceramics and the cooking pots in general, I was searching for cooking pots because of these tablets, and I started volunteering doing the restoration of the ceramics on the site. And here you can see it was 12 storage jars. It was like, I've never, it was so much pottery. I've never seen so much pottery, and we've never dug out so much pottery as this year when we were here. And this is that burnt level. So we were excavating in a palace at the moment, and it's a very big site, and it takes years to just uncover one sort of piece of strata when you're excavating. And we're looking for tablets for the archives, because we know there are archives at Khatsor because of all the correspondence with all the different places like Mari. And they've already found the archive in Mari, but we haven't found the archive in Khatsor. And so this is the mission of to find these tablets. And so in this level, when we were excavating here, they had like a huge burnt down storeroom. And we don't know if it's that layer that they're talking of. There's always like two sides to the Khatsor, because it's mentioned in the Bible. So now anyway, there is this burnt layer. And so this is where the storage jars were coming from. And they're called pitos. Very, very big. They probably, if I had to reconstruct them, they would be the size of me. That's how big they are, containing all sorts of things like grains. And the first line that you can see there was an oil jar with this pitos filled with oil, and it was one of the most beautiful surface decorations of pottery that I've actually ever seen in my life. It was so beautiful, because when this oil was running down the pot from this fire, because everything was burning and this oil obviously heated up, it started running through, the boiling started running over on the outside, and it left these burnt orange, black, beautiful layers and layers and layers of patterns that was on this shards. So these ones were very easy for me to find, because I had to actually separate everything, because they wanted to reconstruct these jars. And eventually Amnon, the site director, was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? This is like crazy. So, and then I didn't restore anything that year. I just actually just sorted them all out. And so I learned a lot about pottery that year, a lot. And so there's just a picture of the restoration in progress. So this was the last time I was there, and in the back you can see those steps there. It was very, very, a lot of excitement that year to find those steps. They called them a monumental staircase. We don't know where it's leading to. So actually everything that you see here, there's a video on the next slide, I think, if you want to. Oh yeah. This is where it's part of that burnt layers. And it was very, very interesting, because this year they actually had that when the fire started, There we can see by my hat, there's like a little basin sort of area from stones which they've made. And inside it, I actually excavated an antler of a deer. And where they've thought that actually that this antler was put this ceremoniously and ritual for, I don't know, we're not really exactly sure why. I haven't actually heard everybody's opinion about it, because it was actually also one of the last years that we excavated. But this was, you can see how black everything is, and the layers where it starts, where that little sign is, that W whatever, you can see the black suit starts from there, how everything just burnt down, which was actually, it was such an exciting year. And then we found these stairs, and we don't know where it's leading. So it was really, really such a nice way to sort of end it. I mean, nobody knew after this was going to be COVID, and the site hasn't been open for a while now. So it's, yeah, so if you go to the next slide, yes, there's the video. I don't know if it can play it.
No, it doesn't play.
Does it play?
No.
Mm.
Just give a moment.
Oh, there. I did test it when I was at mine, so it should. Maybe it just needs some. But the archaeology is actually very important in my work. If you see the site and you see the layers and the stratigraphy, you can see when you start looking at my work, the influence that has on...
Sorry, Melissa, it's not playing.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh. It was just an overview of the site. So I don't know if anybody wanted to ask questions now before I move on.
I wanted to ask, so that was your introduction into clay, Melissa. That is where you touched clay and started to have your love for clay and forms and pots.
Well, no, actually, you know, when I was introduced to clay for the first time, it was actually my mom. I have actually one of her kilns in my studio as well. She did pottery. My mom was also an artist, but she didn't pursue her career as an artist. She actually became a clinical psychologist. But I grew up with always having the kiln and the wheel and everything in the house. But it's not actually, I think it, and also the love for it also comes from the farm, growing up on the farm, always going fishing with my grandparents and my parents. So I've been around clay my whole life, but I only started getting an appreciation for actual ceramics once I started excavating. Because seeing all, you know, you're excavating all of these old ceramics, like I'm talking 6,000 years ago. And it is just beautiful. I mean, some things when I say to Amnon, I'm like, are you sure this was made on a wheel? Are you sure? Because it's so thin and so delicate, and that you could only think, sometimes I think you can only achieve that thinness with slip casting in a sense, you know? So that's where I got my love for ceramics. That was working with ancient ceramics that gave me the love. Yeah, I would say that was the archaeology.
Wonderful. Would you like to then expand on your ceramicist career?
Sure. So anyway, so I carried on with my archaeology, excavating at Khatsor, and I then finished my first degree, my BA. Then when and I finished it focusing on ritual, and then when Sharon changed my mind, I started doing my honors degree in these ancient recipes, and I started with it. My master's degree. And when I wanted to do my master's degree, I was now convinced that the cooking pots had something to do with these recipes, and it's been overlooked. And I'm going to focus my master's studies on these cooking pots and the recipes and how they are combined. And also by now, it's 8 years later, I've touched so many cooking pots, I've restored some. So I had a good feeling of how these cooking pots had to look and feel and how they needed to be made. And then but in the meantime, when I realized I had to start I always realized I had to build these cooking pots. I really had to build them to be able to do these recipes properly. And even though I grew up with ceramics, pottery, I didn't ever do it. And I mean, I come from Orkney, so there wasn't even art in class in our schools. So I then started doing pottery with people. I did my first pottery classes with Philadelphia Pottery. Then I went to see ceramics. I then went to Wow Studios, Anthony Shapiro. I did all the workshops that I could do with all various artists like Anne Marais, Henny Meyer. I really, in the meantime, knew I had to teach myself ceramics to be able to carry on with my master's degree. So then Philadelphia Pottery sold. Fadi didn't want to carry on doing his pottery anymore. So I bought over Fadi's studio because my plan was to build these cooking pots and do my research for my master's degree. And then the university said no. They said, no, that's too much. It's more of a PhD study. I can't build these cooking pots or anything as well. I just need to focus on the recipes itself. And then I had the studio. I bought everything ready to do these studies, and so I was a bit deflated. But then I just thought, you know what? Actually, I'm just going to carry on doing it in any case. And that's when I opened up Melkbos Pottery Studio in Melkbos Strand. So that was quite a lot of years ago now. I think about 7 years. So, and I just carried on teaching myself, teaching other people. So I just slowly, and also just carry on learning and more about these recipes. And so eventually in 2020, I was also asked to do, I don't know, I'm getting confused now. What is the next slide?
Let's go there. See? Maybe Melissa, you can tell us about your residencies. That's
why I want to get to residency. Yeah, so in 2020, I went to, you can go to the next slide. I did a residency in France, and I did a residency with Dr. Wendy Gers and Lauren Kearns in Saint Raphael in France just before COVID. We were supposed to be there for 6 weeks, but then we were only there for just short of 4. And that's when I started working on my work, I See You, which was like the first slide you saw when you were waiting. It's all the hives together. So I already made the nest. I don't know if you want to just go on more.
Go back. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's it. So I also, if you're going to go to the next slide, please. Yes, there. I made those, so I made these nests, which I called them nests with, I think it was one of Paul's last firings at Millstone Pottery. And I didn't know yet so I used these ones to apply to the residency, and Wendy loved my work, and so that's why I was selected to go to do this residency. And I made these ones always knowing about, like, I just felt like something lived in them, and that's why I called them nests. But then if you go back to the other slide, the first one, oh no, the other one, oh no, you're going in the wrong direction.
Oh dear, okay, hold. That one.
Yeah, so I started, so I thought to myself, okay, I got to the residency, and Wendy is very conceptual, so that's why I'm also a lot into contemporary ceramics now at the moment, just because of all my work with Wendy. I've been working with her since 2020, so I started, like, I wanted to make more of these vessels. I don't know why at the time. So I started building, and this is made in the French porcelain, which was also like a challenge to work with. The porcelain, it's so much more finer and different to what we have here. And as I was making and making and making, and it's really like sort of like an interesting story behind this work, because I have these, and you can see these holes in it. And it was as I was sitting making it, and it's like like I could see everybody with it as I was turning it. I could see all the participants of the residency, and then I decided to call this work "I See You." And then I started, and as I started finishing building, so I made 4 of them. And one of the, Carla said to me like, "Oh, I love your hives." And it was like, oh my gosh, they are hives. I didn't know it. I just was building this. And I actually, this always works with me like this. I build things. I don't always know why when I start. And as I started doing more research, I think my archaeology, as you can start seeing how the archaeology is influencing my work with the layers. If the video, like the stratigraphy, because I was looking for a way to, how was I going to merge my archaeology and my ceramics together? And this is also why I went to RISE to see if I could figure out how I could blend these two together. And it turned out that these hives, all these ancient hives, like which you find in archaeological sites, when they were making these in the apiaries, they were all like these round shapes with the holes where the bees could come in and out. And it was really connected to the female shape as well, where we all, as in a sense, a queen bee in our lives. So I don't. It was just so wonderful to build this, and the meaning of it is very rooted in archaeology, because when I see you is actually connected to Ra in Israel, in Egypt, and when you see the eye of Ra and you see the tear coming down, everybody, it's actually a tear of honey, and it is all connected to the king and to all the ancient bee apiaries that was in Israel, and actually in Egypt, and all over the ancient East. And because what they did was they used honey, the honeycomb. They used to melt it and make tablets from it. So instead of having to write onto the clay anymore, so it was like a development, they would actually write on these wax tablets so that they could quickly write something down, go, and then they could just wipe it clean again. And so it was, so these ancient bee, they even had temples for these ancient bees, were very important in the ancient East. And I just picked it up from all the years of just reading all of these things. I somehow always find myself when I'm making something, it is somehow connected to ancient history. So you can see now, if you want to go on to the next, so there's what started it, which all of this then led to my residency with Andile and Zizipo, which was towards the end of the year. And I needed a space to, Andile was busy with his work with Itongo, and he had this big, beautiful cooking pot in the middle of his studio. And I kept on seeing these images of this cooking pot. And then I was like, I have to just message him and say, listen, I love your cooking pot. And I also want to do, and I explained to him my thing about how I've been studying for all these years, and I've been wanting to make this cooking pots to do these recipes. And so I did an application, and they said, yes, come and do the residency there. And I was there for 6 weeks. And so I started building these cooking pots, and through my studies as well, because I did my masters for 5 years, I realized, like, from this archaeology and also just doing formal research into these recipes in ancient kitchens and how did it look like, was my big question of, like, here's these recipes, and in the recipe it says put on the stove, take off the stove, put in a herb, use a pot, chop here, and there's all of these instructions in these recipes which everybody have seemed to overlook. But with me, because I'm a chef, I saw it, and then I was like, okay, but how did this stove look like? And then I had to obviously look and look and look, because I didn't even know the ancient Mesopotamians had ceramic stoves, which was really very, very interesting find for me for my studies. And this is my sort of version of it, but it is exactly like this. It just didn't have the little handles on the side, and it is slightly smaller. If I have to make it again, I would change it a little bit, not to be it so big. But these little stoves were so innovative. They had like little notches on the top there, which you could, which was probably the forerunner for kebabs and satis and all these things. And they would turn it and it would cook. And then like the cooking pot, and you could bake bread with it. So it was very, very interesting for me to find all of this information, which wasn't really, it seems that people overlooked. And you can go to the next slide. So I found the Mesopotamian cooking pots eventually, because it was quite difficult to find them in the archaeology record, because the times when Iraq and Iran and was excavated was really, they never kept any records. They never wrote anything down. They were only looking for temple pieces. So finding ancient kitchens and all of these things it's only recently, when people with now this new interest in cooking and that we have they actually like started writing these things down properly. So here's it's like replicas of the Mesopotamian cooking pots. It is also a installation cooking pot, if I want to say it like that. Not installation, I wouldn't know what to call it, but it changes. So it is an art. They are art pieces, and every time when I put them on display and I cook with them, they change color and they become more and more black and black, which is like smoke firing. And I like that idea and the work that it's constantly changing into something else. If you want to go to this, it started off, that's them fresh and new when I just made them. And so these are just a little collage of everything that I've just done up until that time, just some photos of the hives. They've been exhibited at the Rupert Museum with Eclectica Contemporary. So I'm very proud of this work of mine about the ICU. Because I feel that it really has a beautiful message. That is, which is for, and then the next slide, you can also go to the next slide. So there is also some photos with my residency. You can see right the first little picture there, where my cooking pots are standing in the middle of Ndile's Tonga with all these beautiful chairs that he made. Oh my gosh, it was just amazing. And the cooking was just great. I managed to cook the recipes. I figured out the stove during this residency. And then so this was in 2020. And then I spent the rest of 2021 finishing off my thesis and just writing down all my observations of actually building the cooking pots and relating them, and stoves, and relating them to the recipes. So I don't know if anybody has any questions now.
You want me to flip through the photos further?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So I also do modeling. So so that's where the picture. I had it in the wrong sequence. I'm really sorry, but it's I don't know if you can see it. It's the one where right in the front when I won the award for the Ceramic South Africa for my piece. It's right in the beginning. Yeah. Sorry, you have to flip through everything. There. Yeah. So no, go back. Yeah. So there you can see eclosion. So I finished my thesis, and I'm still working with these nests and these things, and COVID is going on. So I started with making all these weaves. You can see them in the background, and it was a lot to do with emotions and how we. So my work became very much more conceptual, I think, after that. Also working for that time in Ndile's in Amisu, and just seeing how other professional artists put everything together, and that big show he did, and how much work goes and everything. I also started changing my practice to become more like that, more contemporary. I've done marbling. I've won 2 awards already for my marbling, and I marble and only porcelain. So I've actually just started pushing slip casting to the next level. I've seen a lot of slip cast artists, international artists. You can go to the next one. Yeah. Doing beautiful work in slip casting is something that we don't actually have here. Slip casting has such a, I don't know, negative, your slip caster, like you're mass producing, but it doesn't have to be like that. There's actually so much artists now doing so many amazing things with slip casting and mold making, and so that is all slip casted. The next one is also slip casted, yeah. So that was what I won the new signature award for those ones, the terracotta marbled with porcelain, and then last year I won the new the premier award for eclosion. So my work started change. So I also, yeah, in 2017, while I was doing all the research and archaeology, I was asked by the National Geographic to create a kitchen set for one of their documentaries in Origins, and it was a Lydian time period, and this is where I started actually making cooking pots for the first time. Was for this for National Geographic, and beautiful kitchen set. It's just so amazing here. You can see a lot of like how the equipment that I had in the ancient kitchens. These little cooking bowls at the bottom here I've made as well now for my experiments. Absolutely amazing, the technology of these little cooking bowls. So when I always didn't know why they were there until I found the stove. So once you have the stove going and you get it to the right temperature, you then add these ceramic, solid ceramic balls to the fire, and it actually acts like charcoal in a sense, like it keeps the heat, and you can sort of control the heat by adding these cooking balls in and out of the stove. But that can also be used like in a hearth and an open fire to nestle the pots in to keep it warm. So it was really, really a very, very interesting find that so there you can see the Lydian stoves right at the back there. And this is where the little balls would go in to keep the food warm. It was really interesting cooking system from this time period.
Do you have any of those pieces left, Melissa, or were they all just used for this series?
So they took every piece, they took everything. The only one that I have left is the big cooking pot at the back.
Okay.
So they actually gave that one back to me. So I kept that one as part of my, I don't know, my collection of things. So you can see it was the photo taken on set. What they were filming and how beautiful it looked. It was really, really nice.
I'm just going to skip these since you have talked about them.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk through these?
These are just examples of my work that I'm doing. This was also part of the last year's exhibition in the Cube. I made like little minis to go with the eclosion. So eclosion is the marbling piece was about that moment when the butterfly leaves the chrysalis. And it's just like what I felt a little bit of where we were last year, is that we're sort of emerging from something, from this pandemic, but we're not really through it yet. So we're not really have been able to unfold our wings or properly transition. So it's just that moment in between. So this is what the eclosion was based on. And these ones were just the little minis that I made for it. With its like sort of mini eclosion butterflies. Yeah.
That was done in porcelain, hey?
Yes, porcelain, slip casted porcelain, yeah. And you can see the light shining at the top there, how translucent it is and thin. And even on the wing, you can see the light coming through from the other side. Yeah, very delicate, thin pieces, these ones. Yeah.
Who said I see a workshop coming up?
Lovely workshop. So yeah, you can just skip through to, so there is when I started. So last year I was part of Hermana's Fine Arts, and the exhibition was called African Gold. And so here you can see some of my weaving pieces that I do with porcelain and with clay and fiber. But these little three standing together, they're called farm bodies. So when I was thinking about African gold and what it does mean to me to be African, I think always it's a harder question it's a hard question to answer and to see what does it mean to be African for me. And for me, African gold was related to the land, to African land, to soil, and it was linked to me growing up on a farm, and we had an ancestral farm on in Groot Mariku, between Groot and Klein Mariku. It was just there in the middle, in the middle between of them. And so I created these farm bodies for Hermanus Fine Arts. So if you want to go to the next slide. So this is me going forward. I feel I will still be doing slip casting and marbling, but for the time being, I've actually moved on to something completely new. It's called mud. But it has got a connection with farm bodies as well, which is the two is actually sort of merged together. I finished my master's, I handed it in, got my results, and somehow there's freed space in my mind. And I just woke up one morning and I was like, no, I need to do this. And it just came. I don't actually know how to explain it. It's just something that I need to do. It's something that is just flowing out of me, and it's this playing with mud. So if you want to go to the next slide, you can see the pieces they're also behind me. I have developed a new technique or new raw glaze. It's mud glaze, I want to call it, a mud glaze. Which is very connected to my connection to the farm and to the land, and as this work is very important to me because it is actually the reason why I called the pieces for African gold farm bodies was because my grandmother was oh sorry, no, I'm gonna cry. I don't want to cry. I promised myself I won't.
Very important part. Thank you, Melissa, for sharing.
Anyway, my grandmother was killed on the farm. And
how was that, Melissa?
I said my grandmother was killed in a farm killing. And it was very horrific for our family, I must admit. And I was young, I was in my 20s, and it really touched me very deeply. Because nobody wanted to be on the farm anymore after that. And that loss of land, I felt very, very strong. And now I don't know, I feel it very, very strong, the loss of land and the connection to that connection, because especially because it was an ancestral farm. And at the same time, I also feel a lost connection with being Afrikaans. I just feel that I need to do this work and to just bring back that connection that I feel that I've lost to our farm, to growing up on the farm, just to be like I come from a long line of Boere, and
I love the way that you're expressing it in your clay bodies, and I like what you call it, clay glaze. Maybe you want to elaborate on that, Melissa?
The thing is that how this work, the clay wants, how I want to go with this work is that when you can see it and the connection with the land. Sorry, I will. It's a very deep thing to talk about kindly. So this, where I'm going with the work is when you can see this picture, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 different types of clays from 7 different types of farms. And I just, it's just so amazing to see the true nature of clay and see it for what it is and not changing it. It is still in its natural shape. Because sometimes I feel like once we fire something to a high degree, you like a temperature, it changes the
Identity.
yes, the identity and the this, you know, it starts melting it, it starts doing this, and this now just keeps it. This new technique just sort of suspends it in its natural form, therefore connecting it to the land of where, you know, from when it's taken. So it stays the same, and I just find I feel that this work is going towards a thing of like I wonder if I could be able to just capture that memory for you know, like when just when if you've lost it. I don't know how to explain it, so I'm still in the early phases of this work and how I want to go about it, and to bring the message across that all farmers are being killed. It wasn't just my experience, it's not my singular experience, and to just do it in a more kinder way than the way that it's been doing at the moment. Sometimes I find it myself very horrific and very upsetting. And this is why I, even now, if I want to speak about it, I want to cry, because nothing has been done about it in a gentle and kind way. And to say that it's okay to mourn the loss of your land, of your, like your little space that you have. I don't know where I'm going to go, but at the moment, I like while I'm working with this, I just feel such a strong connection to my childhood and growing up on the farm and just remembering the good things. You know, trying to just to sort of replace the hurt with remembering the good and your connection that you had when you were younger. And I feel that everybody can relate to this because we all had the same experience growing up on farms, close to farms. People had family members that had a farm. Everybody has that memory of walking over the dam and hearing the crackling of the soil. And you know, and you know when you see all these cracks, there's going to be water somewhere. You know, so this is memories that we have and we all share. And this is what I want to bring with this work, is just to bring us back to the land and just remembering it in a gentle and beautiful way. Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful way to reconnect in a soft way, also to convey your message, Melissa.
Yes, I mean, this is a thing. And also, I think because it's happening to all farmers, and it's not just South Africa, I think it's just everywhere. You know, the soil sort of represents that the diversity of color, of experience, of soil, you know, and it just comes through so nice and gentle. You know, it shows you your differences, but yet you're all together. You know, you are the same thing. And this is what's so wonderful about all these clays. If you had to see them close by, you would see each and every one of them cracks in its own way. It softens and it, you know, it settles in its own way. And that is what is so beautiful. And I feel that that's what I've discovered by doing this work, because when we work with clay and we process it and we grind it and we do all these things with it, we change it. And with this, I'm not changing anything. It is what it is. And you just reminded about actually how beautiful and how diverse the soil is of our land.
I think it's exquisite. If I understand you correct, Melissa, so these different colors are basically because of the soil from that you've sourced from different areas.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, it's just exquisite. So it's not oxide colored, it's the natural color of the clay.
Yeah, so if you go to the next slide, I don't know if there's like a closer example. Yeah, you can see this one is from Hoxback. And it's just so beautiful. That clay is just so beautiful. And then there's the next slide as well. Yeah, so that is I actually don't know where this one is from, because I didn't realize when I started doing this work, I was just like, people were bringing me clays, because I'm like, I knew already I wanted all this wild clay, but I didn't know why. And now, of course, I know why, but I need to, but from now on, I need to start writing down exactly where the clay is from. I would, you know, and connect it to the story in a gentle and kind way. You can also see the next one is a different, Oh, so then this is the farm bodies which started everything. And the reason why I call it, yeah, so farm bodies, it's clay bodies, it comes from the farm. And it's just that, as you can see, it's very fragile and very delicate, and it's sort of a representation of how the lives of farmers are. You know, they're so important in our lives, but yet they are very delicate and fragile. And yeah, I sometimes just feel a lot of empathy for farmers. So this is what the work represents.
Melissa, can I ask, your colors there then are the colors of the clay in the bodies? It's not a surface decoration or surface finish?
With this one I pit fired, and it's the color on this is oxides, natural oxides. But if you go back to the previous slides where the other ones are, that where you can those are all just normal. That's
Sorry, Tricia, if you can just mute yourself.
So, yeah, so you can carry on with these ones. I mean, this is just, I have my, so I've done these recipes, and you can go to the next slide. So this is to lamb. It's one of the recipes which I've now, I've translated, I've worked it out, I've figured out the recipe. I've also published it with my thesis. It's one of the oldest recipes in the world. This was written 1,700 years before Christ. These recipes were written in Akkadian. And so what you see in front of you here is a 1,700 year before Christ dish, which was actually quite amazing to cook it in the pots that you saw, following the recipe. Such a beautiful, simple, nice recipe. So I'm planning to carry on. So you can go to the next slide. There's in these recipes, there's 27 recipes, and so this is a dessert called mesu, which is a date and pistachio dessert. So I have what I'm moving forward for my chefing and for this part of mine. I was thinking of publishing a cookbook based on the recipes found on the Yale Babylonian cooking tablets. I want to recreate all the recipes, some of the ceramics, just create a beautiful cookbook, coffee table cookbook for this. I've even built a stove, an oven, a Mesopotamian inspired oven. This is Carrie Hart. She's like, she helped me build the stove. She's actually we studied together in hotel school those years together. And it's funny because we both ended up in clay, and she built these cob ovens, and so together we worked on this oven for me at my studio, so that I can just carry on with my research in ancient food. And this is a bread oven, and I wanted to try and cook some of these recipes that I found on the tablet inside here. So yeah,
very exciting.
And there's my teaching. I warned everybody already before. I'm from Orkney. Sometimes I was actually quite good today.
Well, there
I've got a real foul mouth sometimes when I get very excited, or I have one or two glasses too much wine. So I need to just warn everybody beforehand. So this is my teaching studio. I love teaching. I love doing workshops. I love learning more, and I want to just give everybody the opportunity to also be able to teach people, share their work in a beautiful space that is created just for ceramics, which I found that we sort of lacked in Cape Town. Yeah.
Well, there we come to the end of the presentation. So now it's open for questions and answers for Melissa. Please, unmute yourself if you would like to speak to Melissa and ask her questions.
Yes, Melissa, I find it very interesting that you have got a positive attitude towards slip casting. I started off doing handwork and eventually went into commercial pottery, and then slip casting was quite a big part of it. but it's very underrated, and there's so much you can do with it.
Yeah.
But I feel that everything is hearsay, that it's inferior or it's mass-produced or whatever. Yet there's so much possibilities out there that you can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I can't even now remember offhand all of these international artists that they're cutting up, sawing up their molds. They're making completely different shapes from it. I'm speaking to a ceramic artist in Russia, and he does. Wow, the work that he does from slip casting is just next level. It's so inspiring, and hopefully I could convince him to come and do something like a advanced slip casting, mold making type of like course, because we really need something like that. So this is what I was like, just pushing. I'm pushing and pushing on the slip casting. I won't ever stop, because I believe that it really has like a bad name to it. But we also need to break out of this mold. You know, in a sense, you know, break it up.
I think most people that's got a mouthful about slip casting can't even cast themselves. There's some tricks around it that if you follow it, you've got a successful piece. If you don't, it can turn out a terrible flop.
No, it's a terrible thing. I mean, even with eclosion, oh my word, I tell you, that just trying to get it out of that, people don't understand how heavy these molds are, and you know, it's a skill to it. And you know, when you take it out too soon and it starts buckling or something, but also just actually sometimes you're also too scared. And I've at least learned not to be scared anymore. And I think that is evident in what I do in my work with the slip casting, because it's like I'm pushing it beyond the mold. Doing other things with it, and I think, and I'm not going to stop with that. I'm definitely not going to stop with that.
No, please don't.
I'm fortunate enough to have when I bought over Fadi's studio, he was a slip caster, so I think that is also where my slip casting comes from. Because I had all these slip casting things, and so what was I going to do with it? But I didn't want to do it in the way that everybody else was doing it. That I didn't want to go and paint on it either, and that's the thing. That's how the marblings are developed, from wanting to do something different. And also eclosion developed from wanting to do something different and showing that it's possible, you know. So.
Any other questions, Melissa?
Yes. Melissa, your latest mud series.
Yes.
How are you firing those pieces, and is the firing affecting the color of the clay at all? Because you've got that incredible range of colors of earth, and I was just wondering if the firing has altered it at all during that process.
No, it's not altered it at all. No, it doesn't alter it at all. No. Fantastic. It is what it is. I can show you small. So there, it's like
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Is it stoneware temperature, Melissa, or would it be low stoneware?
Low. It would be low.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's a very very beautiful body of work. I'm very proud of it, and I can't wait. Every time I look at soil now, I see it completely differently now. I don't see it, I actually just starting to see how beautiful, the soil actually is of our country, and appreciating it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Melissa, if you were to talk to yourself, a younger 20-year-old, what would you say, or what advice would you give yourself?
I would give myself advice of not to doubt myself so much when I was younger, yeah. And that everything would be okay in the end, because I think as a younger person, you always worry so much, and you want to do things so quickly, and just to actually just slow down and to realize that life unfolds the way it will and not the way that you want it. So sometimes it's just okay to just let it be and not take life so serious, Yeah, that's what I would say.
And who, from a ceramic perspective, who inspires you?
Sure, there's so many people that inspire me. Are you talking about South African or international? I have to give a special mention to Kodak, Garcia, and Cora Wood. They are really, really special to me. Their work are beautiful. They were completely in raw clay. So I've been mentoring with them for 2 years now, and they inspire me a lot. I must say their work inspires me a lot. It's very difficult to be a raw clay artist. It's something that is completely foreign in South African terms. And also, you know, I really love Anne Marais. I love her a lot. You know, she really inspires me from a young potter, if I want to say that, as well as a Zip Phosphor. It was a very, very a beautiful moment for me to have received the prize from her, because I'll never forget the day when I saw her work for the first time. It's when she won her award at this Ceramics South Africa about 5 years ago. And I remember seeing that blue piece of hers and just thought to myself, my gosh, this is just absolutely beautiful. So, and yeah, so there's so many people, but I would say, yeah, Cora and Carlos for me helped me quite a lot in this past 2 years. So they inspire me a lot. Yeah.
That is wonderful. Well, I must say, we look forward to that book that you're promising us. Maybe we should have a cook together then, McGregor, for the last time, Melissa, because that's where we met, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so we should, yeah, we really should. You're welcome to come and visit me at the studio. You know, you always can pop in. If you let me know beforehand, you know, we can. But you're gonna come and do a workshop on me as well. So we might. We're definitely gonna put on then when you come. Yeah, and we'll have food.
Great. Rose, I saw you wanted to say something. Rose, you wanted to ask a question?
No, I'm fine.
Good stuff. If there's no any other further questions or discussions that you want to ask Melissa, I just want to stop the recording.